Hi,
Mhm.
I'm Shivam,
Hi, I'm Izzy,
and this is PhoenixChat.
where one of us can read,
Which one?
you
You find
find out.
out. So, yeah, let's I guess start this out by talking about why we decided to make this podcast in the first place.
So, we are making the Keepers of Order animatic, and making episodes is a lot longer than expected. So, we decided to make like a good like cushion for entertainment between episodes. So that is why we decided to make this and talk about like Dungeons and Dragons as a whole.
Yeah, because we just end up talking about Dungeons and Dragons long enough anyways
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
we might as well just make content out of it, you know?
Yeah, entertainment for
um
others.
yeah, but I guess let's talk first about why we're qualified to make a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. So, um, Izzy, how many years have you been playing
Oh.
D&D now?
Since freshman year of college. That's the first time I've been introduced to Dungeons and Dragons. So that's almost 7 years. That's
Oh my
crazy.
gosh, yeah, wow.
What about you?
Yeah, I first started. Oh God, that was also like sophomore year of high school, so that's almost. Oh geez, like 6 years. I kind of thought it was like 3 years or so, but no, it's been like 6 years
Yeah,
since high school. Oh no.
time is an illusion.
Yeah, you know, that first couple of sessions though, I think the first ever like D&D session I played, it was all right. I kind of hated the absolute first session I ever played because we did a one shot where we were all level 1.
Ooh,
So, yeah, I had like a level 1 paladin, but like there was literally no difference between my level 1 paladin with 13 health and like the monk who basically also had like 12 health or something like that, you know?
right.
So it was all just like all of us trying to like meld it together. But like eventually, freshman year, I eventually started listening to Adventure Zone. Decided, hey, that feels like qualifies me enough to DM. Didn't read any of the books
Oh
whatsoever.
no,
Got
no.
right into DMing. I eventually did end up reading the books and making that campaign better, but boy, oh boy, was the first couple of bits of DMing a mess.
Oh yeah.
Was your first session a bit of a mess too?
So what happened was it was during band. Like, none of us really knew each other, and so one of the guys who played trombone, he was like, "Yeah, I play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm gonna DM. Y'all are gonna play." And we're like, okay." So all of us, like, there was like, there was like 10 of us, and like 10 is a really big number to start playing Dungeons and Dragons,
Mm,
because like the very first like what we call session 0 is like prepping and planning what everybody wanted in this campaign, but literally none of us knew
right.
anything about it. So he was like, it was
Mm,
just like 3 hours of us just trying to make our characters. Like, it was so long and so boring because like all super confused of what was going on. So I just made like an elf ranger lady because I had no idea what was going on.
mm.
And then we played a couple sessions after that, and then it just kind of died out because like there was too many of us, and it was getting really confusing, and like none of us knew what was going on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It's a very like hard hobby to kind of like get into
Hmm.
because like it's um if you do it wrong, it's one of the worst things you've ever experienced. But if you do it right, like, wow, does this hobby
Oh
like
yeah.
seriously give something back to you?
Hmm.
Um, Now you've actually had some experience though. Like, I guess let's start out with what's your favorite class to like play now?
So after figuring out different like characters, like different things that I've played, like in other campaigns, like weird little one shots and whatnot, I really like playing a bard, only because I've grown
Mm.
up playing musical instruments like for most of my life. So like this stuff is like familiar to me, and plus I consider myself pretty charismatic to play as a bard, and I don't play chaotic as I think I do, but then I do things and everyone's like, "Wow, you just had to," and I'm like, "Maybe." Even when I'm playing other things, they're like, "Dude, why are you like trying to be the bard here?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm not."
Oh my gosh.
And what's yours?
Um, so I am normally the forever DM of our group. But as I'm kind of like looking over like all the classes and stuff like that, it's honestly like just recently that I've probably been able to like build this character. But as I'm looking at Artificer, like wow, that class is exactly what I want out of a D&D class. I absolutely adore the idea of like having this insanely complicated like uh build where you can select from like a bajillion magic items that's like constantly expanding with every single book, and you can get like these strange and weird combinations as you
Nice.
build your character. I absolutely just like adore pouring through the books and like figuring out weird combinations to play.
Cool. So you like more of like the research aspect of like doing all the characters, right?
Yeah, I always try to like give every single one of my characters good reasons for like the things they do with all their like abilities and stuff like that. I try not to like just min max, but I do enjoy just like making builds that are very like strong in general.
I personally like building characters based off of like stories that I've already made for them, like their backstories, why they act this way, and then choose their class from there. So I choose like the race and their backstory, like what I want like them to act and like to feel with other characters before I even choose a class, because then I can figure out like, oh, she will be a rogue or he will be a paladin because of this.
Yeah, no, it's honestly like uh a very good note as we head into our first topic here. How do we like build like our characters like backstories and stuff like that? Yeah, no, I've always seen like some people always like decide to like classes and stuff first, but I always like really like being able to start off with like the concept of the character first, and then like switching to the class later. Like I was talking with one of my friends who plays Boondock in the Phoenix Heart recap that if you guys have seen that. And what he basically said was as he built Boondock, he basically like he wanted a character that was like this Western trope. And after he figured out like I want it to be like this Western character, he kind of started like deciding forwards like okay, what could kind of like fit this class? Or sorry, what could kind of fit this character idea? And I think the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons is that like it's so customizable with like the classes and stuff like that, and the flavor and the aesthetics that like literally he could have been any class in the game and still like justified it with like flavor. He is like the easiest thing is obviously just a fighter, but like he could have easily just have been a wizard with like an arcane focus that looks like a gun as he fires off like magic shots from it. He is currently just like a bard because he absolutely loves like the idea of like the Western music and like the lone guitar and like the prairie fronts. Yeah, no, it's absolutely a great character. Concept.
Boondock is such a great character. Like we just finished Boondock's arc, and boy howdy, it was so good.
Yeah, no, it was really fun to DM. But in terms of like giving like our listeners like advice on how to like build character backstories, I would recommend again like starting out with the trope, and like if you look at TV tropes, for example, TV tropes is an extremely good resource for this.
I actually based Juliet kind of off a K-drama. Like K-dramas have such like, if you don't know what K-drama is, it means Korean drama. So like if you see telenovelas or like soap operas, it's that, but based in Korea. That's it. And I really like watching those. And there's like a lot of like really cliche tropes, but I really like it because it's kind of cheesy, but like it works because you know what's gonna happen. And that is how I built Juliet. She is a Kitsune rogue, but I'll explain more of that probably in the Phoenix Heart recap. But that's how I based my character off, and then I just kind of went from there. Like, oh, she's gonna be a rogue.
Yeah, and it's really nice you actually noted that you kind of like based it off like an existing property and stuff like that, because like I also really enjoy like building characters and NPCs off of like pre-existing characters. because like I think it's a very good like place to start.
Especially if you have
Because
no
like
idea where to start.
yeah, exactly. Because even if you end up like ripping a character just from like a media and just like completely just like inserting it into like your DM's world, the character is going to act like ever so slightly different because like you're playing that character, or the character can act slightly different because like he interacts with different characters and stuff like that. Um, and so like the cliches and tropes don't become cliches anymore because you're interacting with so many like other things and other like characters that like you basically can make this your own like idea. um the next thing I also really like doing then once I build like characters is like finding plot hooks in like the DM's lore.
Oh yeah.
Because as a DM, I absolutely love when my players decide that they like my world enough that they're going to like place parts of their characters' backstories in it. It makes them feel like so alive and like a part of the world in like a whole. Yeah, no. Are there any things that you as a player decide like if you see like a DM like lore document or anything like that, you're immediately like, oh, I need to like fixate on like those kinds of things. Like I have these questions about the world.
Every single time that I start a campaign, like either as a player or a DM, one of my first things is religion, because there's a lot of like classes that are based around religion, like clerics, especially paladins, that kind of thing. Like what gods are in this world, and then after that, I kind of base the world more so about what kind of characters they want to play. So like say there's like a lot of people who want to do like a water genasi, then obviously I'm going to have a lot more like sea or lakes or rivers around, and just kind of base it solely off of that kind of stuff. Like session 0, I keep referring back to that, is like something where the DM can help plan what they can introduce with like plot hooks and whatnot based solely around the characters, so everybody can get involved and nobody like feels left out.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's so important to have that like session 0 where like everyone understands like what the world is and what like the world's about. And you can all kind of like pitch your ideas into like the DM's lore and like help him or her like flesh it out a lot better. It's definitely a very good part of like the D&D process.
Oh yeah.
I think the next thing is probably like, how about alignment, for example?
Ooh.
Yeah, do you decide alignment then like just based off like the character and the personality, or like
I do it based off the character and personality. Also depending on session 0 as well, because sometimes people, it's not a lot of times that I play D&D, but there's a few instances people play like chaotic evil, and it just kind of like doesn't mesh well with like everybody who wants to play like a good character and stuff. It's just very awkward. And some people don't even want like, yeah, let's not introduce any of those characters because it's like really hard to play with, and it is. So I normally go toward the neutral kind of alignment. This is when I play Juliet. This is actually the first time I played good, like not completely, but like chaotic good.
To be honest, I'd actually argue that like Juliet's like chaotic neutral, but like the way chaotic neutral's supposed to be played.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I really enjoy that I can trust you to play a chaotic neutral character without like going completely overboard.
Oh yeah.
Like, the thing I see with chaotic neutral characters is they're just like completely inconsistent, and they just kind of like do whatever they want to do that'll just like, completely screw over like the party without any sort of consideration.
I mean,
or
I have
I mean, you have, but like
on
it's
accident.
consistent and it's for a good reason. It's like the thing that I absolutely hate is a chaotic neutral character that just like has an inconsistent set of traits, you know? Juliet does things that'll screw over the party, like, because she has very good reasons to, and like, you don't even have to tell me the reasons, because like, I can see it from the role play, like, exactly what the reasons are that caused her to do this.
Impulsive.
Yeah. A little bit impulsive, yes.
Not a little, a lot.
Yeah. It works out though, because like and I think this is the biggest thing in character building. you understand that you need to play off of characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing that you absolutely need to figure out while you're building a character is how do you play off of characters, and will this be fun to play off of characters like that?
Yes.
Because like having characters with like goals that kind of clash with each other, it's fun because like for example, like in the party, Boondock's a very like lawful good character, who's like almost like always scolding your very chaotic rogue.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
constantly.
but the thing is like you two will clash, but like you know when to compromise as players and let each other like win in these like back and forths here, so no one kind of feels like their character's being cheated out, or like if you're actually just getting into like an actual argument as players
Yes.
anymore.
There is a very big difference between getting in an argument in roleplay and as your characters versus getting in an argument as like your actual selves as people. There's a big difference.
Something else I actually do want to talk about like with this is that like you also know when to like play into others' characters. So
Yes.
citing an example from our campaign, there Boondock again, he's the very like lawful good sheriff, and so like when you got in big trouble, which we can get into later,
I
and
will
you
own up to
realized
that.
like and you realized how deep of a hole you've dug yourself into. You were actually like scared of Boondock and like actually like apologetic, and you played into his character, which I just really appreciate that like you
Didn't make
helped
it
another
worse.
player like yeah, but you helped another character like role play, and like it made that character's role play so much better because
Oh
like you
yes.
acted like scared of Boondock afterwards.
Yes. Like you when playing with other people, you really have to like understand everybody's like play style and role play style because not a lot of people like really
Mm-hmm.
get into role play. Some people really just like action. I've been with
Mm-hmm.
both. Personally, I like the role play side of things because it just brings out everybody's character a lot more and it's a lot more fun to play with like other
Mm-hmm.
people and like different personalities clashing because Boondock is very like quiet, stoic, like lawful good, right? And Juliet is super loud, impulsive, and chaotic. So it's really fun to like
Mm-hmm.
watch and like interact and how everybody else reacts to them.
Yeah, no. You also didn't bring up a good point there with like a campaign being like very like role play centric versus like combat centric. I try to have like an even mix of those, but I think like what can happen a lot as a DM is that like it's very easy to set up combat. It's much harder to figure out when you try to like set up role play. And so like it's very easy to fall into the trap where like a D&D session just becomes combat with just like punching numbers and not really like leaning into any sort of like the role play side of
Yes.
things. I guess how about this? How do you guys as players kind of know like when you can kind of like go off with the role play compared to like the times where I kind of like set up like combat heavy sessions?
I think it's really hard to for me I can tell because I'm very good at like adapting and reading people and how they speak. That's just me personally, not like as a player or anything, but I can tell when
Mhm.
conversation starts to dry up and they're not sure what else to say other than like, oh yeah, we should like get going, like and then after
Mhm.
that I like to help take charge in these kinds of things because I can tell when people don't really know what else to do or what else to say. So I
Mhm.
normally take charge and I'm like, oh, let's go to this cave that looks like it's glowing ominously. And they're like, oh yeah, let's go. And
Yeah.
then it like leads into a combat. And it also helps
Yeah.
if like the DM also starts like hinting like, hey, do you want to roll perception or something? Because like when we're like, oh, is there something around us? And then that like helps spark back like, oh, maybe there's combat, maybe there's like something.
Yeah, it definitely kind of helps. I would also recommend, by the way, for like any DMs are trying to like get their party to like role play a little more, and they're just like uncertain on how to do it. Because like with this party, I don't have to like tell you guys
Yeah.
anything, and like as soon as there's any sort of downtime, you guys will just immediately start like talking to yourselves in character.
Mhm.
But like with the previous party that I had, some of the characters weren't quite characters. Some of the characters were basically just like the player but they are a rogue, you know?
Yeah.
And I think what kind of like helped me there and was kind of like easing them into like a place where they could actually role play was that I would literally like kind of stop the game and kind of say that like, well, as you guys are like traveling down the road, the topic of conversation slowly shifts to like why you guys became adventurers, or like what did you guys think about like the new like revelation about like your party member or something like that, you know?
Share scar stories. Like, yeah.
And oh, I guess we should probably touch on this as we're talking about character building. How do you come up with a good like arc for your character?
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's a good question.
because like I've seen a lot of backstories that are like you have a lot of traits and characters and stuff like that, but like for my kind of campaigns, what ends up happening is that like I do a lot of like plots and stuff that revolve around like characters and stuff like that, and like how they change and grow after this like character arcs.
Yes.
But like if I don't have anything or any idea like how you want to change your character, it becomes infinitely harder for me to try and figure that out.
Yeah. Personally, so both of us have played like as characters and DM. So that
Mhm.
that should, be mentioned. I am running a campaign right now, and how I did it is they gave me their characters, and I just kind of like sat down and fleshed out this really good like plot with like A, and then you go A to B. Like A is how they start, what tavern they're starting in, blah 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 blah, and then B is like the very end. What is their end goal? How can they get there? XYZ. The in between though, I just add little plot hooks here and there, just kind of go with it. For me, I really like them to interact with the world, them to like, they're really smart, and it makes me so mad because sometimes I have to skip all of this stuff that I plotted out, and they're like, "Oh, it's her. She's the bad guy." I'm like, God, how the heck did you know it was the bad guy? She's like, "Oh, because she spoke celestial, not demonic." And I was like, how did you know that? How did you do that? Because they take such good notes. I think that's another thing I should mention when you're being a player. Note taking is so nice because sometimes you forget about things, and looking back at your notes, like the other day I was like, you asked why we were going to this place called Soliana, and I was like, oh, because we need to find this true sight seeing spell so we can go find the bad guy.
Everybody else forgot about that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I know this. I was reading my notes the other day. I know what's going on.
Note taking is like it's very like helpful when you're a DM, but sometimes it really shoots you in the foot.
Yes. Yes.
Because my absolute favorite thing to do as a DM is just like have a very like simple thing set up, but like if weeks or like even like multiple weeks like pass between sessions, it's very very easy for players to forget like the tiny little details that happens. So like you can say like, remember like when this happened like 2 sessions ago, and they all go like, holy shit, wait a second, oh,
the
that's
stars
how
have
it all ties
aligned
together. Yeah, no, I really really enjoy that. So I guess with that, and then building your world and stuff like that, you said it's just kind of like point A, point B, and then like afterwards it's just kind of like smaller character oriented sessions. I think what I've been most surprised about as a DM is that like how simple the overarching plot should be.
Yeah.
Because like the moment to moment stuff is where you can make it like confusing. It's not confusing, but like more complicated, and like add in those like interactions and details about the world. But honestly, just having a very simple script of like, you need to defeat this evil person, or like collect all these like magic items or something like that, it's very simple and easy to get into, and like you can just add so much more detail into like the moment to moment gameplay.
Oh yeah. I think a really like, I will ask this question and I'm going to answer the question and then you can answer this question. What was one of your favorites as a DM to watch or like to listen or whatever your players do? And mine was that happened actually last week. It was so good. I made every single person in our party cry, and oh my, because I like to play music over my not like hardcore like loud music with like words, but like ambiance music to just kind of like set the mood. Like you could listen to tavern music, like, or like battle music from like your favorite video game or something like that, just to like set the mood a little bit more, to get everybody like into like, yeah, we're gonna fight this thing. Well, I decided to play Avatar: The Last Airbender music, and it was so good because everything lined up like super nice while they were like role playing and interacting with NPCs and whatnot. And it came to a point where one of the characters found out that an evil NPC was their mom, and their mom sacrificed herself to save their party and their daughter by getting killed. And as that moment was happening, Leaves from the Vine started playing, and all of us started to cry. I was like tearing up as I'm explaining what's going on like in the scene, and it was so good. And once we finally ended that session, we all like took a step back and was like, how we feeling? And everyone's like, why are you like this? I'm like,
Oh my gosh. I think my favorite moment is again like very, very similar to that. We had just found out that the paladins it is like idols basically, this like the first like order of paladins ever. They had built like this giant keep, and he found like the ruins of it when he was like passing through like the initiation trial of it. And at like the last part of the trial, the paladin was the only person who like remembered his memories, as like everyone else was trapped in these like illusory worlds that reflected like their heart's like greatest desires.
oh my gosh.
And so like even like the rogue who like just was here for like the combat and didn't care about literally anything else, he got into like the role play and started like asking the paladin like who he was and like why he was like aboard his like cool ship and everything like that. And everyone got these like cool like character moments where like they just like I wasn't talking to my friends anymore, I was talking to like the characters in the campaign, and I could just sit back and just let them talk in character and just listen to them. And I think that's what's just really special about this game, is that like if you get into it for long enough, every so often you'll just get those special moments where like you're there in the world and you're just experiencing it.
Yes, I definitely have gotten lost in roleplay very, very easily, because I've been acting since I was in 5th grade up to now, and getting lost in a character is so nice because you think in the moment of your character, not what you would do personally. Like, for example, I would never, ever, ever go into somebody's mausoleum and steal from the dead. But Juliet would, because she thinks differently than I do. She thinks like, oh, I can help and stop this. This isn't grave robbing, until the moment where they're like, you just grave robbed. And she's like, oh yeah, I just did.
Yeah, I think those are the characters I also really like seeing people play. Is characters who are like, their mindsets are so different from their own. So, for example, we have like our tiny little frog merchant.
Oh yes, Hopscotch. I love her.
And it's very, very fun to see one of my friends just like get into this like a mindset of this very, very like innocent character who just like doesn't understand anything about the world and is like experiencing it for the first time. And I think it's kind of rough too, because like at times like she, the player, will have like an insight or like some knowledge about the situation, but she can't express it as her very like silly naive character, because of course like Hopscotch doesn't know anything.
There's this running joke that nobody knows how to read in our campaign except for one person.
Yeah. And to be fair, we haven't tested that yet.
We still have not tested it yet. You were right, but for now, one of us knows how to read.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, I guess how do you like do that sort of thing where like you have like a character moment where like you, the player, knows something but your character absolutely doesn't know that, or like your character wouldn't do it? How do you like get into that mindset where you can like do that and not kind of feel frustrated?
So we are about to start a new campaign based in like Icewind Dale, and I like to try and play different classes that I've never played before, and I've never played a paladin. And I normally always make like super complex characters with like really quirky, like fun, charming personalities. But this time, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna play the dumbass. Like, absolute one brain cell, paladin, super tall lady who has no fucking clue what's going on. So, what I like to do is, for one, I try to think of somebody that resembles that, whether that be on like TV, whether that be like a celebrity that I know, or something like that. Um, some of it actually came from Jester from Critical Role. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of that. I mean, it's pretty big, but uh, like, yeah, she's super intelligent, but like how she plays the character is like super dumb, and it's so funny. So I kind of like liked that idea, and so I wanted to roll with it. And I also kind of got some inspiration from Hopscotch, the character itself, because I was like, I love this. But hiding information based on like yourself versus playing as your character, it's kind of hard, and I have to like bite my tongue to not say anything like out of character, because obviously that's kind of defeats the purpose of them trying to figure it out for themselves in character. So what I like to do is I like to keep like a little notepad or something like that to write it down myself so I don't forget, and then maybe try to hint at it in character, like, oh hey, there's a lever here, we should pull it, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good like little middle ground there, where like, and especially though if like the party's like struggling, and then you the player are the only person who would like know this
Oh yeah.
information. Yeah, no, I really like that. I'm also honestly just really looking forward to like being able to play in this campaign, because so we're like both playing in the Icewind Dale campaign together, so I'm gonna be looking forward to like interacting with you as a character in that way.
Oh yeah.
Especially because like Nina seems like such a different character from Juliet, and just like seeing like people like kind of play like this characters for like a long time, you kind of like see like the parts of their personality that they've injected like into that character. I think like the first time that happened for me was that like in the last campaign, the person who played Boondock, he was playing like a very like a trickster like warlock who like resolved things with his like silver tongue, and was literally just like the most chaotic person in that party. And now he's the most like lawful, good, straight edge person in the
one
party.
that actually makes sense out of all of us.
I absolutely adore that, because like it was like weird the first couple of times seeing him like be like this weird lawful character all of a sudden, instead of like this like insane trickster. But it's just really nice to see like the depths like some other like role players can do with all these like different characters.
Oh yeah, it's very exciting to watch too.
Oh, some smaller questions that we've gotten from some people you told about this. Let's see. So one of the most interesting questions that someone asked was, can you play D&D wrong? And I really like this question. At a like a base level, just like raw instinct, I want to say no, just because on the basis of like, as long as you and your like friends are having fun at the table, it is no one else's business like
Yes,
how you decide to play it and stuff like
I
that.
agree.
But I also understand like the idea of like other players' play styles not meshing with your own,
Yes.
or like other people being like rude and like interruptive, with that
Yes.
play style wouldn't like mesh with mine and stuff like that.
Or like
Yeah.
breaking boundaries which have been clearly set in like session 0. Like, for example, like I don't want to see like self-harm or suicide in anything of this campaign, and somebody just up and does it, and you're like, whoa, that's not okay. That I think is a good example of like playing the game wrong. Like, everybody should be on the same level. Like, yeah, your characters can clash and you can argue and stuff like that and try to like work together, but there are certain things, like, I think even on the outside world is kind of like, yeah, we should not do that.
Yeah, so I guess the answer then would be, as long as you aren't like detracting from the fun of other people at your table, you are always playing the game right. Yeah, but like, because again, it's a very co-op focused game, and
Yes.
like your fun is so dependent on like the people around you also like buying in to this world. But as long as all of you are having fun together, there's literally no way to play D&D wrong. The other interesting question, where I'm not exactly certain how to answer, is that like there's people, I believe some of your friends like aren't quite into like a D&D and stuff like that, and they just like have seen the media and stuff like that.
Yes.
How do you know what to do when you're like playing a character or when you're DMing? And like at this point, it's just been so ingrained into my mind
Yeah.
that like it's hard to break down the process of like, oh god, what are the things that I'm thinking while I DM, you know?
So I would say, as like, if you're getting into D&D, I'm assuming you're going to start as a character or as a player because you're not really sure what to DM or anything. So
Mm.
I would just do research on like, how do you build a character, or ask your DM, because I'm assuming your DM is going to start telling you like, hey, you should play, and entice you to play. So basically, I would just do research on like what you personally like out of like things. So the first thing you do when starting to build a character and stuff like that is like what race you want to play. So there's like human, tiefling, Triton, Genasi, anything. And based off what you like, because I like playing Genasi because it's kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I know I keep referencing that, but I really like that show. And I like firebending, so I was like, oh, that firebend, that's super cool. Like, you know, I like that, so that's what I chose. And then somebody, like your DM, I'm assuming, will explain what the classes can do, and you can read what the different classes can do. So like a cleric can heal, or like a paladin's like a tank, or like a bard is like kind of like a trickster who can like do other things. It's just nice to have like a different like mix up of characters. So that's kind of my advice to start like get into it. Just do some research or listen to a podcast like this.
I also listen to some like live play podcasts too, like Critical Role, Adventure Zone, Dungeons and Daddies. Yeah, no, all of those are like very great at like just breaking down like the general flow of the game. Because it becomes like so much easier to kind of like figure out when you kind of realize like, oh, you're basically just like an actor, and you're just like doing the things that like the character you're playing would do in game as a character. Yeah. When it comes to DMing though, and again, like, you probably should start as a player if you're able to, but to be perfectly honest, I did actually just start as a DM with no experience whatsoever and ended up fine. What I would first do is that like look up a lot of guides and stuff like that. I would actually read the DMG.
Yes.
As well as all the books and stuff like that, because like as the DM, you're unfortunately in the role of like you need to know the rules the most out of every single one of the players at the table. But in terms of like the moment to moment gameplay, I think the main goal of a DM is you're trying to always like you're trying to do things to get players to react to it, and you're trying to set up events that will like give players meaningful choices about like what they can do next and like what they want to do in order to like achieve their goal. So yeah, it's just a cycle of setting up a goal, setting up events they can take to get to the goal, and as soon as they get to the goal, have something that they react to.
Yes.
And then like repeat that cycle over and over again.
I think that is a very good explanation.
Yeah, so you've DM'd, by the way, and then
Yes.
Have you ever like finished a campaign before, by the way, or?
So I've only ever finished one campaign, and it was on New Year's of last year for the end of 2019, start of 2020, and it was this really crack-headed campaign. Like, I personally have never actually played a pre-written campaign before. I normally do homebrew stuff. And homebrew means like the DM has full control over like what's the world, what's going on, versus a pre-written one is something that's like already written for you, like what gods are there, what people are there, NPCs, etc., etc. And it was just a whole mess of things. But that is the only one that I've actually finished. So, and I haven't actually like finished completely as a player before. So I'm really excited with the campaigns that I'm in, and I'm in 3 different campaigns right now as a player, and I'm DMing one.
Yeah. How long did that campaign end up like lasting, by the way?
Oh, it was really hard because we were all in college and we were all super stressed out, so we didn't really have a consistent like meeting, I guess, and players kept dropping in and out like all the time, so it's really hard to tell. But I think it lasted like 6-7 months.
Yeah, that's about like I think average for like a campaign. I think my last campaign lasted like about that, like 7-8 months ish. I think after like about a year passes, like in real time, like that's about the point where everyone's kind of like starting to get like, oh, we can start like wrapping this up and like head into like new characters and stuff like that. 'Cause I feel like at that point, like all the stories of the world might be like exhausted, and you might just be kind of like dragging things out. I've always much preferred to like end a campaign while it's still good than like just have it like peter out from just like nothing else being there in the world.
How long have we been doing this campaign that we're in?
I believe we started in November, so that would make it 4 months in.
Oh my god, it does not feel like 4 months. I will say that. Like,
yeah, no, because like I normally kind of expected like that first arc, like when I normally do arcs, it ends up being like 2-3 sessions, and that one ended up being like 5 or 6 sessions.
Yeah.
But like it was fine because like everyone was cool with it. Everyone like really liked where the story was going and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things where like in my last group, what ended up happening was that like I would give them like a combat, and then they would just like head to the next combat with like no like reactions whatsoever. You know, like it was just heading through the dungeon without any sort of like role play unless I like requested role play. And like with you guys will literally just like role play even like during the combats and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is really really nice because like I appreciate that you guys will make bad in character decisions for the sake of roleplay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
To give an example, Hops, again that the little froggy monk, in one of the last fights we had, what she decided to do was first she aggroed out of the enemies before any of the party could get like a long rest, and basically charged him by herself. 2, immediately after aggroing all the enemies, she proceeded to basically not attack them and like just dived underwater because she was kind of scared of like the creatures. And I think 3rd, she also like she also like hung out in like the water or something like that with like one of the like creatures as like it was about to take some like lightning damage or something.
Yeah, just ended up damaging herself, and we were all like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. It was a really good moment because like as a character that makes so much sense for Hops. Like she's a very like impulsive child, and like of course she's just going to like immediately rush in without like hearing what anyone else has to say. But like strategy wise, you know, that almost knocked her out. It wouldn't have killed her for sure, but like it was definitely like not great.
I think Hops and Morgan, who's a halfling fighter, are the only 2 who haven't been knocked out in this campaign. I know I have like a bunch of times because I'm very squishy as a rogue, but
you're very squishy, and you also decide to 1, taunt every enemy you see, and 2, never disengage from every enemy you see. I mean, despite being the squishiest character in the party.
Do you really think Juliet would do that though? Because I don't.
That's fair.
She
and
literally...
also 90% of the time you forget uncanny dodge and you just kind of get hit.
Yeah. Yeah, Juliet decides to call everyone damsels and flip people off. That's just kind of...
I'm really glad I gave you the ability to learn every single language in the game with one of your weapons.
Oh yeah.
So you can call people damsels in every fight.
Oh, what was the quote that I had? Hold on. Fuck you, damsel, asshole, fuck. And then we were like, well, she's gonna die, and that's gonna be her last words.
Yeah, fuck you, damsel, asshole, fuck.
Yeah.
And then the fucking sea serpent grabbed you and dragged you
in the water. Yeah.
And I respect that, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I respect that.
If that's how she would have went, and that would have been her last words, I would have been totally okay with that. I would have been sad, but I would have been okay with it.
You know, I very much enjoy the bad decisions you guys make.
So many.
Yeah. And as long as like the rest of the party and your table is cool with it, I definitely think you should like introduce the idea of like bringing in like bad character decisions and stuff like that, because like And I know it's a bad argument to make, and I know like there's a lot of like bad stories about like it's what my character would do, but in this case, like it's more like getting into character versus actively trying to screw over the party at any given
Yes.
turn.
Yes.
I think that's the important distinction. Yeah, have you ever had any stories like that? Any horror stories of like it's what my character would do or anything like that, or like anybody didn't like quite understand?
Yes.
Yeah, people getting
So
too in the character or not in the character.
yes. So I was a DM for this. Like I have played a DM really for the most part until this last year, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a player. This is nice. Um, there was this
Mhm.
guy, and he played a chaotic evil character, and literally he was a
Ooh.
gnome. I don't even remember what he was, but he was like a gnome, and he literally would just go around just stabbing everyone, claiming, "Oh, this is what my character would do. Oh, this is what my character would do." And I'm like, "You're just being a dick at this point, dude. Like, you don't need to stab
Mhm.
people for no reason. Like, I get it, you're chaotic evil, but like, this is your party who are supposed to
Mhm.
work together for. Like, don't do this." And that campaign
Yeah.
obviously did not last very long.
Yeah, no, it's a very like similar thing where like did you ever like complain about them like getting like did you get arrested or anything like that by your DM or like something like that?
I
Was there
mean,
some kind of
I
consequences
tried
or?
to, but like it didn't. He just didn't get the memo. I guess it was a very bad
Mm.
campaign, so it didn't last very long anyway. I think it lasted like
Mm-hmm.
a session or like two maybe.
I've definitely had that. So one of my I DM for like one of my just a group of, like friends and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
like one of them was kind of certain that it was more like a Skyrim sort of thing where like they could just do whatever they wanted to with like no consequences, and so they like I had an NPC who was like offering them like the next quest line, and like as I'm giving like a little bit of like exposition, I swear I'm like only 10 minutes in as they're just like asking him a couple of questions, and then he just immediately pipes up and says, "Can I just like stab this guy or something? Would that like break the campaign?" And I said, "Yes, obviously. Why would you?"
Why would you want to? Yeah.
Yeah. And he just kind of shrugged me, so, bored. Like cool.
Yeah, but there are like
Mhm.
the weird few instances where sometimes the weird impulsiveness works, and it just makes
Mhm.
it super funny. Like what happened last last night. Um, uh, Morgan, the halfling, dropped
Oh my
a
god.
glass, and
Mhm.
we were all super paranoid. Well, just my character and Morgan were paranoid because an NPC like backstabbed us, and so we were super paranoid over everything.
Mhm.
And the glass didn't break, and we all were like, "What does this mean?" And without hearing what the NPC had to say, Juliet picked up the glass and just slammed it straight against the wall. And she's like, "Well, if you'd let me explain, it's a superstition of luck." And we're like, "Oh, oops."
Yeah. I also want to just double explain what happened there because I feel like it might have I feel like it really went over your guys' head for some reason.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it definitely did.
do you know what the main feature of the halfling is like in the like race description?
Isn't it just like luck based? Like they're super lucky, like all the time.
Yeah, one of their traits is literally the lucky feat.
Mm,
Um, and like or not the lucky feat, it's the lucky trait, but like when they roll a one, they can just like re-roll
reroll
that
it.
number, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, and so like because Morgan had a thing that made him lucky, like I figured like okay, what does that mean then in like the context of like other things? Maybe he's just luckier in general, and so I
Hmm.
like wanted to play with that, and then you guys ran away like a burned dog as you immediately panicked, assumed I was trying to hurt you, pulled out all your weapons, and immediately like, who's trying to attack us? Who's trying to kill us? Yeah. How have I?
You have given us
Who hurt you?
PTSD. Who hurt me? The lady who we helped pick up from the ground and lost our memory and started attacking everyone.
Oopsies.
See, but it's moments like that where you can look back and just laugh at it because like it's just
Yeah.
it's just so fucking funny. But like when you
Mhm.
explain this to other people, they're like, "Why the fuck would you throw a glass?" And I'm like, yeah, it's hard to explain. But
You
it's
have
just
to
that's
know.
like you just have to know. That's why I love like the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons because it's like this whole thing could be like an inside joke. Like you could just laugh with each other about it, and then when you try to explain it to somebody else, they're like, "I have no fucking idea what you're talking about." Like even watching like Dungeons and Dragons, like different campaigns, like Critical Role, for example. Like Jester has this giant lollipop where she could just bat people like straight in the face, and I think that's hilarious. And other people are like, what? A lollipop? What do you mean? And it's just things like that. You create good memories.
Yeah, and like it's also one of those things too where like your characters would like it makes sense that your characters are just like nervous and like panicked and stuff like that because like you guys have not like it's been a rough last couple of sessions, I will admit.
Oh yeah,
Especially after the NPC betrayal.
so
Yeah,
much shit.
that's why I try to at least give you like one right down the middle session where like nothing bad happens. You guys get to chill at some hot springs for a little bit.
That's what you think, and then anxiety. We're like, creepy tarot readings.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Jesus emerges from the cave. Oh.
Yeah, I think that also those kind of things just work because like Boondock is the voice of reason and just like tempers the party from like getting too absolutely insane.
Yes.
Yeah, I cannot recommend enough like having a party dynamic that's like at least one like very chaotic character and like one lawful character. If like those two players are it balances out if those two players are very good at like being at odds without like
killing
stepping on each other's toes.
Or that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just gonna say it, yes.
Yeah.
Again, it's so hard to have the like party dynamic where like you just don't end up like murdering each other outright. But if you can get the like special like balance where like both of you guys still like play your characters without like undermining each other, it's so good.
Oh, it's so good. This campaign, very especially that we're in, I think is really good. Like the Juliet versus Boondock dynamic, so good.
With all of that, I think we can probably start wrapping up here.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed our first little discussion as we just talked about world building and such. As we continue with more of the Phoenix Heart recaps, we're going to probably start talking a little more in depth about like the campaign session by session and just like the weird things that happened and like our thoughts and like opinions throughout the entire process.
Yes.
Yeah. And then if you guys have any like questions, you're like let us know in like the comments. Feel free to shoot us like DMs on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah. I'm just chiming in. But yeah, I agree with everything they say.
And we'll see you again for next week's episode.
Yay!